Hello my beauties, welcome to my makeup rules series, the blush edition. Without further ado, I'm gonna go straight into it. Blush, also known as blusher, comes from the word rouge, which is actually in French, which means red. And basically we use blush because we want to mimic the natural flush that we have in our cheeks when we feel happy, or when we feel a little bit embarrassed, or there's some sort of romantic stimulation, or basically a sign of youth and beauty. And that is why we commonly now use blush in our makeup routine, like, you know, it's part of it basically. So blush goes way back, pretty much around the same time as lipstick. So in ancient Egypt and also in the ancient dynasties in China, they used blush on both their cheeks and their lips. Some people in the English Regency, both men and women, used rouge on their cheeks. In Britain and late Victorian age, a lot of the times the excess use or the visible use of the blush kind of associated with people who are more in the lower class. I think similarly to, I guess, back then where say, you know, geishas wore a lot of like painted on makeup with, you know, red rosy cheeks and lips. I think it was just that kind of stereotype back those days. Nowadays, it is so common to use blush. You know, we don't actually realize the importance of blush because it's so a part of our makeup routine that we kind of almost forget the significance and also the major big difference that it makes to your makeup. First, let's talk about the different kinds of blushes. We've got powder, which is the most common one. You can get it in a baked form, you can get it in a loose form, you can get it in a pressed form. Pretty much powder blushes, similar to foundations or like foundation powders, they're great for people who have oily skin, and it's also great for layering. So if you are using a different kind of color underneath, you can use a powder blush on top to layer it. At the same time, it is probably one of the most common forms of blush to be used because it's very easy to apply, it's almost foolproof, and it's probably the most accessible type of blush as well. A lot of the common ingredients you'll find in blushes these days are more of the FDA-approved colorants and dyes. You also get talcum-based powder, stearic acid, mica, zinc oxide, titanium oxide, and natural fatty acids. Then you've got the cream blusher, commonly found in either a stick form or a pot form or just some sort of like case with a jar on it, I don't know. Basically those are like great for people who have dry skin because the creaminess of the blush will go nicer on the dry skin and it makes your skin look a bit more luminous, hydrated, and it definitely won't creep into the lines as a powder would. The key thing to using cream blushes is that you do have to blend it out really nicely, and with cream blushes you can kind of put on before or after foundation, so it's not a big concern. You can sometimes even mix it in with a little bit of your foundation as well. A lot of these cream blushes will contain shea butter or oil, a lot of the vegetable-based emulsifying wax. Of course, on top of that, you get the colorants and the dyes and the pigments that is all FDA approved. The last type of blushes is actually the gel/stain, and those ones are not that common, but it also is a very popular one because it's probably the longest staying power, knowing that it's a stain. It probably contains a lot less ingredients and probably one of the more difficult ones to apply because with stains and gels you got to be really quick, and blending is so key because if you don't blend it well you get little patches or little lines, which is something that you don't want because you want the blush to naturally appear on your cheeks, or I guess smoothly transition from your cheeks to your contour. A natural way to make your own cheek stain is to use vegetable-based glycerin or jojoba oil, and you can mix that with a bit of beetroot juice. Actually, back in the day when, you know, before all this makeup came about, a lot of the ancient people used rose petals, beetroot juice, they use crushed strawberries, they use crushed mulberries, basically any form of things that can cause a stain on your skin, and a lot of them comes from fruits and things like that, so it is actually quite natural to use a natural form of blush. So the gels and stains have probably the highest in terms of concentration and pigmentation. At the same time, it can also be used underneath and on top of foundation, but obviously being powder is the last thing that to go on top. So I honestly think it's a great layering thing. You can also use it on your cheeks and your lips. So the good thing about stains, it's versatile. It's actually pretty easy to use and quite natural to pull off, especially if you are not wearing a lot of foundation. But the thing is about blending. Now, how to best apply these different types of blushes. If you are using a powder blush, then obviously the best way to apply them is with your brush. And sometimes you can use sponges. If you were to apply cream blushes, you can either use a stipple brush or a sponge or your fingers. The only way I think the best applied with stains and gels is with your fingers, because you need the warmth of your fingers to spread the product around. Now is on to choosing the right color for your skin tone. So some of the most common blush colors is obviously pink, orange, you get occasionally the purple, and of course red. Sometimes you get a bit of tan, but I think beige, tan, brown sort of kind of almost transition into a contour color. So I wouldn't really want to consider that as a blush, but I can consider anything between like a mauvey type of like pink or mauvey rose. But I definitely think the most majority colors are the pink, red, and purple. So for fair skin with warm undertone, you should go for pinks or light purples. If you have fair skin with a cool undertone, then go for pinks or peaches. When you have medium skin tone with a bit of warm underneath, you can go for pinks, corals, and reds. If you are medium with a cool undertone, then go for oranges, soft browns, and reds. If you're a darker skin with warm undertones, go for browns, oranges, and red. And if you are dark with a cool undertone, go for reds and pinks. These are just a guideline because at the end of the day, I think it's definitely best to try on the blush, and it also makes a huge difference when you're trying to match a makeup look and matching your hairstyle, your eyeshadow, your lipstick. And I think if you were to wear no makeup, or if you want to find a blush that can suit you for an everyday look, I think is one key thing that I think works out is if you find a blush that is one shade lighter than your natural lip color. So if your lips are super red, then find like a soft pink. So at least it's one tone like, you know, lighter than your lip color, so it kind of matches together. And if your lips are naturally sort of pink, then maybe find something a lot light pinker. If your lips are naturally brown, then maybe find a soft orange. I guess basically tying in your blush with your lips, it kind of matches together, and I think that just gives the overall a more of a smooth transition, and it looks just more comfortable that way. So there are also different finishes with blushes. You get the shimmery, glowy type of blushes, and you also get the matte ones. Those two are probably the most common, I guess, differences in terms of blushes. I personally feel like a lot of times people might prefer a really matte blush, but they use a beautiful shimmery highlight, so it kind of blends in together anyways. Or if you were to use a really shimmery blush, then you kind of don't need to use the highlight. So you can have a bit of both, or you can choose one or the other. The only, I guess, recommendation that I can give you about the difference between matte and shimmery powder is that if you were to use a matte blush, then make sure that your foundation, the base that you're working on, is flawless, because anything matte will emphasize, you know, the imperfections of your skin. So if you have, you know, a bit of a bump or acne prone skin, then the matteness might look quite evident on your actual skin. However, if you have like, you know, a shimmery blush, it kind of reflects the light and makes your skin look more glowy and flawless. At the same time, shimmery blushes can creep into fine lines or wrinkles, so maybe with people who tend to have more mature skin will prefer non-too glittery or shimmery blushes. So you got to really play with colors and play with textures and actually trying the blush on firsthand. So at the same time, I also want to mention that with a lot of these colors, you can often find that, for example, with pinks, you can find pinks with a cool undertone or pinks with a warm undertone. So these are reason why I think that trying on blushes is important, because a lot of times you find that, oh, it's just a pink, but it will look so much different on your skin. Sometimes a pink might look, you know, nice and cool on one person, but look amazingly warm on the other person. And last but not least is, I think, doesn't matter what blush you're using, it's always important to make sure that you blend. There's a fine line between looking like a clown when you put too much blush on or when you have no blush on. So we gotta find that middle ground, and we gotta just make sure that we get it right, because it's all about practice. It's all about having fun. It's all about trying them on. Alright, so that's my take on a blush 101. If you have any questions or want to know what kind of blush application suits what kind of face shape, give this video a thumbs up, share with your friends so I know, then I will make that video for you guys. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you had a lovely week and I will see you in my next video. Bye!